PurlCast. I'm here with Vanessa, the Crafty Gemini. I like fangirl really hard about
You're so funny.
No, it's true. It's true because I mean you're amazing. You're just amazing.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I know I'm well aware that you know none of us are able to do it all, but man, you sure give it a good shot, you know.
I try. I get that a lot from people, you know, and they're like, how do you do? I'm like, I don't even really know, you know. I'm just fast. I speak fast. I move fast. I do things fast. So I think that that's part of the thing, you know, and that Gemini brain, like I just need constant doing something else. So I think when it all comes together, you know, and you're posting it on social media, it's like, whoa.
You don't spend a lot of time sitting around. You're either like,
I can't. Yeah. Yeah. And I get that a lot. People are like, when do you sleep? You know, and I'm like, every single night. If I don't get a good chunky 8 to 10 hours, you don't want to be around me, you know?
Then you're like crabby Gemini.
That's the other side of the dual personality.
I know. So before I hit the record button, I mean, I have so many things. I think you're fascinating, and I have so many things I want to ask you about. But first of all, if you're comfortable, tell us a little bit about. We were just talking about how you are Spanish speaking first.
That's right.
I think it's fantastic to be bilingual. I'm trying to learn Spanish, and it's not good.
It's, you know what, that's funny you say that because so it's my first language. My family's from the Dominican Republic. So I'm first generation American and I grew up in Miami, Florida. So if anybody has traveled to Miami and you don't speak Spanish, you know that it's like you're going to another country, you know, like most everybody speaks Spanish.
Yeah.
And so in college, when my friends would take Spanish classes, they would say like, can you help me with my homework? And so some of the Miami girls would be like, they're just doing it for them. And they'd say, well, why is this? And we're like, we don't know the rules, dude. We just know that this is the right word that goes here. Like you just know the language because you use it. But like, if we were to get into all the grammatical stuff and the, you know, like the rules of it, no. Yeah. We're just native speakers.
Well, of course. And that's no different than English, you know, native English speakers not understanding the rules of grammar because they just grew up.
Yeah. Hearing. I mean, and we know some, you know what I'm saying? But once you're getting to those higher level, collegiate level classes where they're asking you specific things about the sentence structure, we're like, dude, no, this is the one that sounds right. This is the one that goes.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
That's fantastic though. And I can hear the little bit of I hear accents easily because I lived in so many places growing up. And so if I spend time with someone, you know, who's from the South. I'm
like that too. It's a Gemini thing. You're good for languages and you can hear things. It's like a thing. Yeah. It's funny because in my videos, I'll get comments randomly. People are like, are you from New York? Are you Puerto Rican? You know, and I'm like, I was born in New York, like my family's from New York, but my family's from Dominican Republic. And like people can hear it in a video of me talking. They're like, are you Dominican? I'm like, yeah.
I think some of it is how fast you speak, but then some of it is certain vowel sounds also. It's
like the pronunciation of like certain things, like the S's and the L's. It's very, very Miami. I can pinpoint anybody from Miami super quick by the way we speak. Yeah.
Yes. So you have a fantastic online presence because of that, because you're so happy.
I'm hyper. This is for sure. I have a lot of energy and it's all natural. You know, people always asking me, what do you take? How can I bottle it up? You know, I'm like, listen, my mom is like late 60s and she runs circles around me.
Oh, and, my.
One of the comments I get a lot is your videos are great, but you talk too fast. And I always laugh because I'm like, if you heard me speak in Spanish, you would, I mean, I speak like 3 times as fast. It's just, so in English for me, it's like slowed down. I'm like taking my time and enunciating and people are still saying I talk too fast.
Yeah, so we'll just take a moment here, give a little listener tip. There's a little button on the video where you can slow it down.
Rewind and replay. It's free and it's a video player, you know? That's I mean, what can I say?
So we found each other because I think you ran across me and then joined my Facebook group, and then we got to know each other a little bit, and I think you're amazing because I don't sew very well at all.
Well, I found you because I was looking up how to knit socks. And so I was looking up different random technique tutorials and stuff, and I came across your videos, I want to say like a year and a half ago or something.
Yeah.
And then yeah, I was like, oh, wow, I really like her teaching style, like the way you break things down, you know, and as a teacher, you know how we can appreciate that in somebody else. So I was like, oh, finally, let me subscribe and let me check out her stuff. So yeah.
That's amazing. I'm glad you did. There's several people in our group that also sew and quilt, and they already knew who you are, and they're like, Jenna, do you realize who that is? And I'm like,
that's
what?
so funny.
I'm like, what? Like
there's a lot of crossover with the crafts, you know. So yeah, cool.
Sure. Well,
that's awesome.
Just a shout out to you too. I noticed that you have a couple of like learn to knit, begin to knit videos. That's fantastic. I haven't delved into that beginner like step one. So if people are looking for that, Vanessa just posted a couple of those recently, like in the last month or so. I noticed that.
Yep. I've been doing some of those because people are asking for them. And I'm just like, there's so many knitting tutorials. But you know, when people like you and your teaching style, it doesn't matter how many other hundreds of videos there are on the topic. They'll want to, because they get it and they know that they can, have successful results.
Absolutely. My channel's in its infancy compared to yours, but I keep plugging away at it because you develop people that you kind of connect with and that like how you teach, and
absolutely
you roll with that, and everybody clicks with a different thing.
We were talking about this at that live chat, remember? Yeah, because there's plenty of room for everybody, you know, on the internet. I follow like 12 different knitting kind of podcast things that I like to watch just for myself, for fun, you know? So it's like you're always getting information, tips, tricks, techniques.
Yeah. So what made you decide to settle in Florida then?
So I grew up in Miami, and I went to college at the University of Florida. So it's in Florida also, just about 5-6 hours north of Miami. So, and it's the flagship school of the state. I had scholarship. My sister came here, my older sister. It's like where you go where you need a scholarship and you ain't got no money, but it's like a great school, you know? So that's where I went to school. And then I went to law school at UF also, which is another top law school in the country for public schools. So, and then we stayed here. You know, I took a job after I graduated.
You went to law school so that you could homestead and milk Dexter's.
Basically, I never wanted to be a lawyer, but my bachelor's degree is in anthropology, and it's what are you going to do with that?
Fantastic.
So I decided to go to grad school. I went to law school. I graduated, and then I taught law classes for 3 years, like while I was pregnant, having a kid, then pregnant again, having the second kid, and I taught classes in a paralegal program.
You're amazing.
I just like to do a little bit of everything.
So then the babies come along. And then
we're trying to build a channel. We're trying to grow the business, you know. So I had posted videos on YouTube, I want to say for almost 2 years without seeing a penny. I didn't know anything about monetization, partner program. It was just, I was teaching a class locally, and everybody wanted me to teach that same class every weekend. And as a creative person, that's like the death of you, you know?
You gotta create the evergreen thing where you can.
I'm like, if I have to teach this one class again, I'm going to just like fall out. Okay. So my husband says, well, why don't we videotape you teaching the class? One time is all you have to film it, you know, and we'll upload it to YouTube. And then when people ask you for it, just send them the link and tell them to leave you alone. You're a genius.
And you're like,
a genius.
Brilliant.
So I only ever had to do each project one time. Hello, that's my dream. Even I tell people all the time, I go back and watch my own tutorials because, I mean, something I did 10 years ago, I don't remember exactly the measurement or what I did. So I go back and watch my own videos like, oh yeah, you did do that, girl.
Do you have that problem when people leave a comment on a video that you did like 5 years ago, you're like, I don't remember.
But it's not even a comment. Like I'll get a question about a mini quilt that's hanging in the background. So there was a mini quilt hanging behind you in a video you did on this. Which pattern is it? And I'm like, I don't even know. So I have to go back to the.
I've moved on since then.
I mean, it could be like on some of the videos, I used to have a design wall behind me. Yeah. So it's literally works in progress. So they'll ask me about one and I'm like, I don't even know. So I have to go back in the video and like look behind me and say like, oh, now I know which one she's asking about. And then
so since then, have you decided that you're just going to post all the information in the video description?
No.
No. It's
too much. I mean, like how many things can I, you know?
No.
What do you mean? Yeah. I'll talk about a sewing machine thread, or I'm talking about a project and people will say, what chair are you using? What table are you using?
Oh my gosh.
What? Yeah. Oh, girl. So you have to, yeah. If it's something like that I know people are going to ask about, then yeah, I'll include it. But I mean, I can't go through every single little thing, you know?
Well, I know. And on mine, I try to remember to include, okay, here's the needles I'm using, the yarn. But,
exactly. Yeah, like that kind of stuff.
But I don't have a lot of like background, interesting things like you do. So
Stop.
No, it's true.
They're just supplies, you know, that people are like, oh, what was the little magnetic pin cushion you were using? And it's like, I don't know.
Google.
Something I bought once upon a time in clearance. I don't know.
Google. That's amazing. So okay, you kind of touched on this, that you were teaching classes locally in.
Yep.
So was this whole thing that your husband came up, was that the birth of your channel then?
So it was, yeah. And I didn't use YouTube. This is 2009. And I had graduated from law school the year before, and I was getting ready to have my first kid. And so he says, well, we'll just upload them to YouTube because it's free. You know, we were broke, and he's just like, that's just a free platform. So I didn't use YouTube. You get it? I was just using it to host the videos because that's all we had.
Right.
So of course I didn't know anything about monetization. I didn't watch no videos on YouTube to know that there's even ads running. I didn't know anything, you know? So I did that for like a year and a half, 2 years. And then one day, I don't know what I was researching, but I was looking for something. And I thought to myself, well, the same way I post videos, let me look up a video on this. Like that was the first time. It's like almost 2 years later, like, well, why don't I do a YouTube search for this? So I do. And then I started watching a video, and the video had like 8 views on it, and there were ads playing. And I thought, wait a minute. How does this video have ads playing on it and it only has 8 views? Because what happened was, like, that last part of the year, YouTube would send us an email and say, hey, this video has 50,000 views. It's now eligible to monetize it.
Oh,
so
because per view of video back then.
So I thought that I had to wait for each video to hit a certain milestone before we could monetize. So that's why it hit me by surprise. Like, how does this video have ads? Right. So then I start Googling ads on YouTube videos, and the partnership program pops up. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, I did not know about this. So I submitted the little application, and in less than 24 hours, they approved me. Wow. So then they started monetizing all my videos. And so what happened was that shortly after that, I was researching on YouTube, and you know how the related videos pop up on the side?
Yeah.
There was one there that said, like, we're lurking for the next big YouTubers or something that caught my eye like that. So I clicked to watch it, and it's like an informational video, and they're looking for top 25 up and coming YouTube stars. They'll give you $35,000 to expand your channel and your brand, to help people that have the potential, right, to be the next big thing on YouTube. And so I watched it, and I'm thinking, please don't have expired. I need to apply for this, right? Wow. So I think at the time I had maybe 2,200, 2,500 subscribers, okay? Yeah. And I come across this thing, and when I saw it, I had 4 days left to submit. So I'm pregnant with the second kid. I have a 1.5-year-old, okay? And that same week, my husband had sold his car so that we could have cash to put a down payment to buy the farmhouse. And he says, I'm going to give you $1,000 to get a real camera because I really think that you could go somewhere with this YouTube thing.
Oh my gosh.
Up until then, we were using like the family point and shoot cameras.
Yeah.
And if I tell you, Jenna, how I was uploading content, you will appreciate this because you also make content and you know what goes into this, okay? I had a memory card that had 256 megabytes.
Oh.
Megabytes. I would film in like 20 to 30-second bursts of clips. And then I would take the card and go to my laptop, export the footage, reformat the card, go back, film the next clip.
That's just painful.
Oh my God. I just, thinking back to that, I'm like, are you kidding me right now? So my husband says, you know, get a real camera. I think you could do something with this. This is 2 years in, you know?
Yeah.
And so I told him, like, here's your kid. Give me 4 days, new camera, new editing software. And I had to teach myself everything and put together the audition video in 4 days with a belly out to here.
Oh my God.
So it was insanity, but I was like, I have to, because I kept telling him, if I put in the video for this, I'm going to win it. 25 winners. Come on. My chances are great, you know? And so I put in for it and I won. I was chosen as one of the 25. It was the first class of YouTube Next Up. And this was 2011. And so I was chosen for that, and they flew us up to New York. We bought new equipment at B&H, like photo, video. You know, we had like one person with us shopping the store, like, okay, what types of videos do you use? What kind of tripod do you need? And we were just like, click buy. And we had like a stipend to use for new equipment. It was awesome. And so then after that, then I was featured on 2020. And, you know, it kind of was like, picking up, you know, and I was like, okay, maybe we can go somewhere with this for real, you know? And that's when I really started focusing on, you know, adding more content, making more videos, and building.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's the wildest, craziest. The night that I was having my daughter, I appeared on 2020. So I'm literally like 8 centimeters dilated, looking at myself on camera and like taking a contraction, looking at myself on the TV like that, like on camera, I say, but on TV. And the nurses came in. I was like, can we put on ABC, you know, at 10 o'clock or whatever? And they were like, okay. And like the nurses would come in, they'd look at me like in labor and they're like, that's you. And I'm like, I'm trying to tell you that's me. Like I'm on 2020 tonight. It was insane. Okay.
That's fantastic.
It's crazy.
Wow. And just a shout out to the husband here for, you know, the support, and he believed.
I'm telling you, I always give him his shout out because everything comes from him. You know, like for me, I would have like forced myself to practice law and done whatever. You know, he's like, if you don't like it, don't do it.
That's fantastic. You got a good one there.
Yeah, girl, I'm telling you, every idea, like I'm like, maybe we should do this. He's like, if you want to, do it. You know, should I buy this new sewing machine? He's like, are you going to use it? Get it. Like,
well, I have to say mine's like that too. You know, every time I've had an idea, he gets a little panicky when I say, I have an idea. He's like, he wonders how much work will be in it for him, especially if it's homestead related.
Yeah, homestead related.
Yes.
Any little project in homesteading is like.
Yeah. He's on vacation at the moment and he's building. We could talk about farm stuff the whole time.
Okay.
And we could, but we might do that after we stop recording. That's not why people are probably watching this.
Yeah.
He's building like garden bed covers.
Yeah.
Because we have serious hail. Like.
Okay. Yeah, you'll need something to protect them because that'll wipe your stuff out.
Oh yeah, we've had that happen many, many times. Yeah.
Yikes.
Anyway, he had quite a list for his little 2-week vacation.
Surprise.
We're funny. Halfway through a milking room as well.
Oh, good. Yeah, because you see, what you do and what I do is the weather differences is insanity. Because I literally milk out in the open, no halter, no tie up, nothing. I literally just go. She has a bowl in front of her, and I just milk her there in the middle, in nothing. For us, the important thing is air circulation, openness. Where for you all, it's like cover, barn, like keep the animals warm. For us, it's like I need to open up 3 sides. Right. Because otherwise the heat will kill them, you know?
Right. And you're already eating tomatoes.
Already eating? Girl, I've been harvesting stuff since the end of March.
I know. And we're just now planting our seedlings.
I can't even.
Because we had frost through May 20th or so. We still had frost at night.
Our last frost date, potentially, is March 31. And I said, I don't care. I'm putting everything in the ground March 5th. And I was perfect on that call because, I mean, we've been today, the kids, I was like, we didn't go harvest anything yesterday. And I told the kids today, go get everything that needs to come in. Yeah. Wow. 3-4 pounds of tomatoes, cucumbers, more zucchini. We grow like these Italian gourds called cucuzza. They're like this long. It's massive. It's just like all the stuff. I'm like, keep picking. You guys got to keep everything. I mean, you know, we share with a bunch of friends and family because there's only so much you can eat, but.
So let me get back to your sewing thing. Did you learn to sew as a child?
No, ma'am. My mom.
That all started.
When my mother came to this country in the 60s as a teenager, she lived in New York City. Like she worked in the garment district as a factory worker, you know, as an immigrant, just working in factories. Yeah. So they got paid by the piece. So the faster you were, the more pennies you made. So she would only work on industrial machines, and she was so fast as a teenager, imagine, and she's hyper like me already, that she would oftentimes sew her finger in the industrial machine. So she says she had a system where she would just like pass out, tie her finger, like literally come to and keep working. So she was used to working industrial sewing machines. So growing up, that's what we had, was an industrial singer.
I see.
I mean, 2,000-3,000 stitches per minute. And that's what she used to make our clothes on. So when I was 8, I asked her to teach me how to sew, and she refused because she was traumatized that would happen to me, that I would sew my finger.
Right.
And we're 4 girls, you know, so she didn't teach anybody. Like, no, it's too dangerous. And it's, when she would be gone, I remember turning the machine on and flooring it, and it would be like, it was so fast. I used to be like, wow, what does this thing do, you know? And every couple months, every couple years, I'd ask her again, teach me. And she'd say, no, it's too dangerous.
Yeah.
So then my second year of law school, I was looking for like a coffee shop to study at, because we live in a college town. Right. And so all the undergrads take up all the coffee shops. So, you know, you're a graduate student. You're not trying to hang out with undergrads. So we're looking for like another place to study. And I'm driving around the different plazas in the area, and I see a shop that says sewing classes. And I was like, this exists? You know, when you grow up with it, like at home, you always only assume it's passed down through like your mom, your grandma, and aunt or something. Right. I never thought that this was like a business where you could go and learn somewhere else. Like, it never even clicked to me. It's crazy. And so it was a Sunday, so it was closed. So I went there Monday morning and was like, I want to take sewing classes, you know? And so I called my mom that same day and told her, listen, I need a sewing machine. I want to take sewing classes. So she says, well, let me see what I can find. She went to a yard sale, bought an old 1966 Singer sewing machine, brought it to my house, and then she taught me how to thread it. And so then we thread it and we're sewing. So I tell her, okay, now what's next? You know, and she tells me, stitch 1,000 straight lines. There's nothing more important than sewing straight. And I'm like, no. I was already sewing straight. So I was like, I need to make something. Yeah. So I grabbed an old pair of jeans from my closet. I cut them up and I literally just started sewing. So I sewed it, and then I would look at it and be like, oh yeah, that's wrong. Like the seam would be on the outside. Okay. So I'd be like, oh, no, that's wrong. That's opposite, you know? So then I would cut it off, flip it right side, like wrong side out, then sew, then flip it. And that's how I taught myself. Like I just started going from there.
Yeah. Because you'd grown up with seeing your mother do these things.
Seeing it, you know, she made our clothes. Right. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you know exactly. Correct. You just had to figure out how to get from A to B and have it look right.
And to me, that was like what blew my mind. I've always loved to cook, and I used to decorate cakes. Even as a teenager, I'd make my friends these elaborate cakes for their birthdays because I thought, it's art.
Yeah.
There's engineering involved, and then you get to eat it. You know what I'm saying? So when I got my hands on fabric, it was like, I can literally take this fiber, right? This textile, and make anything I want. It could be a backpack. It could be something for the kitchen. It could be something for my dog. It could be a tent. Like it could be, and that just like the possibilities. I think that's what really drew me in. I have a very math and engineering kind of brain, you know?
Yeah. But you're also creative. That's the Gemini.
Exactly.
Yep. I hear you. I think I'm that way too, in a way, because I really like the math involved with knitting. It's very structural. It's very logical to me. It's very
I love it.
But it's also, you know, the
still creative. You're still working with cool colors and pretty stuff.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And the way that you can manipulate it and build things, make 3-dimensional object, you know, it's just, I get excited about stuff like that.
Do you remember the first piece of clothing that you made for yourself?
In law school, I used to make shirts and dresses. Like I would, you know, we'd buy some like cheap, whatever, Simplicity or McCall's pattern.
Yeah.
One of them I would say was probably, I took a class on my first garment, and it was a tank top. It was a linen tank top that had bias tape to turn under the edges. So it was a very like chic looking, you know, and it was like a minty colored linen. That was the first garment.
And I'll bet you looked fantastic in it.
It was super cute, and very perfect for Florida summers for sure.
Absolutely. So you were sewing clothing for a while. When did you get into quilting?
So when I started, after my mom taught me how to like thread the machine and I was just playing around with stuff, that shop that I had found, I had signed up for a class it was like 3 weeks out. That's why I was like, I need a machine. I need to take.
You want to start now?
Instant. When I say
I know.
Oh, girl, I can't. It's like, we'll get now. Yeah, and I go all in, like 120%. That's how I am. And so I had signed up for a class, and it was the first one. I think was a Christmas stocking, or maybe a pillow sham, or a Christmas stocking. It was like back to back. It was like one day one and one day the other. Yeah. And so I did the first class, and then when I did the second class, one of the ladies, she's a friend of mine actually, and she worked at the shop, and she tells me, you're a perfectionist. You should really think about quilting. And I remember thinking, what is quilting? So you have to remember, like that literally was like the first time I heard that word.
Wow.
I was 22 years old. Because people find that crazy to believe, but I'm like, I grew up in Miami, Florida.
Yeah.
First generation American. My family's from the Caribbean. We have zero need for quilts. This is not, we're not American like that, like American history. This was passed down from my grandmother. We don't have that.
Well,
you know?
It's not like your family was on the Oregon Trail.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Wagon. Hello.
Listen, I try to tell people that, and they're like, there's no way. And I'm like, well, why would I have heard of quilting? Like, no.
Because people just don't think. We know this. People don't think about what comes out their mouth before they say it, right?
So I'm like, yeah, I had no idea what a quilt was. So she walks me around the shop and she says, so quilting, we take this fabric, we cut it up into small pieces, and then we put it all back together to make things like this. And I was like, so she's like, you have to cut very precisely. You have to sew very precisely. And just from watching me in the class, she knew how perfectionist I was. So she's like, this would be great for you. And that's how I started. Then I took a beginner quilting class. Right. And the lady who taught that class is still my friend till this day. And she always tells people, she's like, this, you know, my overachieving student, you know, she'd assign you one quilt block and I would come back with like 6 different ones.
different ways.
Yeah, because I'm like, I don't want to make the same exact thing. So she'd assign 16 of the same block and I would come back with 25 to make sure. And then I'd sit with her and say like, which ones have the best matching points?
Right.
Like which are the most perfectest ones that will end up, you know, in the finished quilt. And I was
perfectist.
And that's why I got into quilting, because it really fed that perfectionist need in me, you know? It's like, this has to match.
Yeah, and knitting does that for me. I get it. I totally get it, because people are like, well, should I go back and fix that? I'm like,
That's you.
I mean, it's up to you. You go fix it if you want to. If it were me, absolutely. Mm-hmm. I'll rip it right on out and do it over, because I like knitting and it's fine to me to rip it out and do it over.
I know. I heard you in your videos. You love your swatches because it's knitting and you love knitting. I'm like, girl, I'm going to do a half a swatch and keep it moving, because you know what I've noticed over the years is the more I teach people, and this is something that I do in town, like I own a shop. And so I teach a lot of classes in person as well.
Right.
And so I always ask, who here has been told they have perfectionist tendencies, is how I ask it, you know? Because they'll say like, well, people say that I am. And it's like, then you probably are, you know?
But they don't want to admit that about themselves.
Exactly.
Right?
And then the other side is like I have some people that come to a class that, I mean, if they're 1/32 of an inch off, they want to rip out a whole seam. And I'm like, it won't matter in the finished project. Whereas on the other side, in the same class, I'll have somebody who doesn't want to use rulers and doesn't want to measure and just freehand everything. So as a teacher, you need to be able to teach to both, right?
Yep. You have to
and so because I've been teaching for so long, especially in person, because you get that instant feedback, it's kind of pulled me away from being such a perfectionist to the point where I see that I can now fit in a lot more things because I'm not so hung up on it being, you know, so I let myself slide with a lot more things. And I find that, you know, it brings the anxiety level down a little bit.
It does. And I think it depends too, particularly with knitting. I think it depends on, well, what is it we're accomplishing here? Okay. So we're doing this Campside cardigan.
Do you want to see mine?
Yes. And
progress.
My example is like, I had a decrease in the wrong place. And so, I went back and fixed it. However, there would have been multiple ways to go about fixing that that would not have compromised the design at all.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay. So that's why I would say you're the boss, meaning you're the boss of your own adventure here. You.
Add one here, take one off here and keep it moving. You know what I mean? If that's what you want, like what is the end goal, you know?
Right. But if it's going to bother you, then by all means, take it out. Exactly. So it's about, the individual. So I want to see your Campside Cardi. It's a fantastic purple. And I love purple.
Listen, you want to know how I do things, how I can fit all these things that I do? I stay up till almost 2 or 3 a.m. every night working on this damn cardigan. Because I'm like, this is my project for me, you know? Yeah. So if I only do what I'm supposed to do, I'm never going to get to it. So I have to. So it's my thing. I stay up late every night watching Spanish telenovelas and
Spanish. You watch Spanish something novels? What?
Telenovelas, like novelas, like the Spanish
soap operas.
Yeah, they're like Netflix, like Spanish soap operas on Netflix. Yes, girl, they're great. So here's
that's lovely.
I just started the second chart.
It's beautiful.
Isn't that cute?
Here, and the color.
I know, it's really pretty. It's this heathered purple. It's the lilac color.
That's beautiful. And she's okay. So if I recall, you're doing the Barocco vintage DK.
DK, that's right. Okay. Yeah, super cute.
Oh, tell us about the cozy thing, because those are available.
They are. So these are the ones that I made. Yeah, and then there's commercial ones that you can buy that have like little caricatures on them, but it's just a little sleeve. And I did put up a free sewing tutorial on my YouTube channel. Just YouTube search for yarn. Crafty Gemini. We'll
put a link down below. We'll put a link. I saw it.
Yeah, so that's one. Here's another one, the little kitty one. Yeah, they're super fun. I like it because you can see that I'm working my way down on the yarn and it still is holding it.
Yeah.
And I do like to work from the center. So it works for me.
Yeah. And I normally work from the outside.
I know.
But I think it's just personal.
You can still use it, but you can still use the yarn cozy if you work from the outside too. So, because it doesn't like choke it up. You know what I mean? So you still pull, it still comes out.
Cool.
And I show that in the tutorial so people can see the visual of it.
That's handy if you have cats that like to, you know.
We used to have indoor cats, and then when we moved to the new house, we started training them. I was like, get them outside. They're going to be outdoor cats. Get them outside. They're outdoor cats. Because I'm like, I can't worry about closing the sewing room door every time. You know, it's too much. They would tear this place up. Yeah. You know.
I've had projects I've had to frog entirely because somebody laid on it and went like this. And
oh, no. Oh, no.
There was no way to repair the strands that were pulled. Yeah.
And you don't care, huh? All those hours, Jana.
No, I care. Oh, I care. But I love them too.
Yeah. Well, you know.
But it was a lesson to me to like put my stuff away. Put things back in project bags and shoot, you know.
Yep. Yeah. That happened to me before. We've had like shipments of yarn, like, yay, my yarn came. And then we go out to eat and we come back and I'm like, no, you know, in the old house when the cats, like the box closed. I don't know. Like they would like dig. And then you see, like you walk in and there's like a skein of sock yarn and it's just like goes all around the house. Like it's, oh my God. And I know there's people out there that love to detangle yarn. I am not one of them. I literally go like this and right in the trash. I don't even bother with it. Oh yeah. I don't even bother. I'm one of those.
I would give it to, I would work at it for a while and then I would hand it off to one of my kids.
Never. I've given ones that I really cared about that were like, I bought from an indie dyer, you know, it's like silk and whatever mix. You're going to sit right here. If I hear y'all fighting, start detangling.
It's like a big punishment for you.
It is. But no, like a little skein, 50, ma'am, it is going right in the trash. I can't.
You can mail it to people that will just leave.
I know. My friends send me links sometimes to these groups and it blows my mind. Like, I can't wait. I'm next. I would literally light a match to it. Goodbye. No, I can't.
Funny.
Anxiety on 10,000 and dump it.
That's amazing. So you started, let's see, I keep looking, my eye keeps being drawn to your little squares behind the sewing machine on the wall behind you. Those yellow ones, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So you see, this is all we're talking about, contrast in color.
Yeah.
It's like a chartreusey color and then teal. They're just star blocks that have like a turnstile block inside of them. I can't remember. Maybe I want to say it's maybe Martha Washington Star or something is the name of the block. I can't remember. I have so many quilt blocks in my head. But it's just a little table runner. Yeah. You can put them up on the wall as a wall hanging decorative stuff. I just love color and pops of color. So I threw that one up there. So
do you have like, you know, we call it, like we're doing the Campside Cardigan knit along, right? Mm-hmm. So we call that a knit along or people do crochet along. So do you have
we do. We have quilt alongs, sew along. Yep, we sure have quilt alongs. Yeah, a bunch of my quilts that I've designed and stuff have quilt alongs. Some of the ones that are up on the wall over there.
Oh, yeah. That's amazing. That one that's behind the bigger one by the purple chair there. I was admiring that when you were at a knit
on a live thing. Yeah. That's one of the ones that I have.
So do you have any of those coming up?
Let me think. I just did one recently. That's the one that's back here. You see the quilt on the table? Yeah. I'm quilting it. So quilting, the one word means two different things. Right. Quilting, one is the art of making quilts. Like, oh, I'm into quilting. But when you're working about the project, quilting is the stitching that you do through all three layers. Right. So that's the quilting part of it. And that's why that one's there, because I did a live and I was sharing some free motion quilting tips. But that's the most recent quilt along that I did. I don't have one right now in the works. I'm working on releasing my next garment sewing class. It's for a cardigan. That's funny, cardigan pattern, but it's sewn, with stretch knit fabrics.
Okay. So when would you use like a long arm? I mean, I understand
for that.
Okay.
I have long arms. I have one in another studio that I have, and I have one at my shop. So that's when you use a long arm, when you're doing the stitching through the 3 layers through that.
No, I know. But I'm saying like you could quilt something like you're doing there, like a table runner. You don't need a long arm for that, but you need, when you're doing like a queen size quilt.
You can do a queen size here. It's just a lot more work, but I mean,
it all up.
Yeah, you have to, manipulate it as you work your way around it. But on the long arm, I'll do a mug rug on a long arm.
Right.
You're using a lot more fabric because the backing of it needs to span between the 2 rollers.
Right.
But I mean, I do itty bitty things on the long arm because for me, I can freehand and have more motion to cover the whole thing. It's easier than free motion quilting.
Sure.
I can do both. The way I think about it is like on a long arm machine, the long arm is the pencil and the quilt is stationary. So it's just like how we're used to writing. Right. The paper is steady and you're writing. This, when you're doing it on a domestic sewing machine, it's the opposite. It's like if you were holding the pencil and I'm holding the paper and now you tell me to write my name. It's backwards. So you have to kind of, yep, exactly. So you have to kind of train your brain and swap it out when you go from one to the other. Yeah.
So how did you learn to knit then?
So I started knitting maybe 6 years ago now.
Okay.
And I had like a health scare that I just had to like sit and just be chilling. Right. And so I started crocheting. So I made a couple hats and then I was like, I'm going to teach myself how to knit. Cause of course it's like, I need something new.
So you did.
I did. So I started making some washcloths.
Personalities like ours, I keep doing the same thing, but I love that little dopamine rush of casting on, right? So I keep knitting, and I'm like, woo, something else to cast on.
Oh
something pattern, woo, squirrel, cast on something else. And that's how come we have like, 15 works
all
in
the
progress
UFOs
at the same time. Because you don't get bored that way.
So I just started with the basic knit and purl, like making, washcloths and stuff. But the problem was that when you look at the basic knitting stuff, nobody tells you, okay, when you're knitting, you might make this mistake. You might make that one. So again, when I would drop a stitch, I would just take the whole thing and dump it because I didn't know how to fix it. And I was like, I don't even want to try and figure out, I'm going to make it worse. And it was like, okay, it was fun while it lasted. Trash. And so then when I started, okay, like say I'd make a cowl and I'd say, okay, I really love this yarn. I really like this cowl. And I've gone 3/4 of the way up and now I make a mistake. It's like, okay, now I'm a little bit more invested. I really want to finish it. Let me figure out how to correct this, Right. And then when you do it, you're like, oh, that was it. I could have saved so many projects in the past. But that's part of the part that I feel like is missing a lot in education.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like they just show you, oh, this is how you knit. Go enjoy the world, you know? And when you don't, and I've gotten that feedback. That's why I started doing those videos because a lot of my viewers are like, oh, I've taught myself before, but I don't know how to fix a drop stitch or swap a knit stitch to a purl one or the other way around, all that.
Right. So when we're doing these projects, like when we did I did a knit along with a brioche scarf. And I have to tell you, brioche kicked my, it did. And I showed my mistakes and I'm like, all right, I'm going to show you how I'm going to fix this because this is what happened to me.
That's huge.
I totally jacked this up hugely.
Yeah.
One time we did the block of the month Afghan squares. And so I get this block done, all the way done. I'm like, yay, it's blocking. I take pictures, I do Instagram, all these things, and I publish the video. And then a viewer, like the first comment on the video, I kept expecting you to fix the cable that's miscrossed, blah, blah, blah. And I went, what? Wait, what? And I go look at it, and I'm like, oh, shit. And I'm like,
you see, I know.
And I didn't even see it. I did not even see it. I was in such a rush to get this project done. I didn't even see it.
Which is really weird because I would say you are so good at reading your work. So as you're explaining stuff, when you're explaining your work that you're like saying like, okay, so if we look at this stitch, it's like, oh, that's what it's supposed to look like. That's huge, So
I was horrified. And I'm like, well, I guess I know what Friday's video is going to be.
Yeah. Well, you see, and it gives you more content. It makes it more. Well,
it did. So I put it down and I took the needles out and I had 6 stitches in the center and I used some pins and I picked it all out. So I picked out that ladder And I had the needles, I had the needles on there, and I don't recall if I put little stoppers on the needles, or I don't recall what I did. But I picked it all out, and I thought, well, either this is going to work and it's going to be fantastic surgical intervention, or it's going to suck and I'm going to rip it out. I don't have anything to lose by trying it, right? Because it's wrong. I mean, it was glaring. It was a glaring mistake.
But you couldn't have left it.
No. Oh, no. You have
what you're saying there of opening it up, I would have been like, freak out.
No, I did it, and I put it all. So I twisted the whole thing all back up. It was about 30 rows where it twisted every 6 or every 8.
My word. Yeah. Oh, my word.
But I showed people, here's how you do this. Here's how you would fix a miscrossed cable. But then there's some other options for fixing it that are even scarier than this. But we're not going to go there yet.
Wow.
And but that's the thing, is I think that people think that just because we're on YouTube that we don't make mistakes. And I'm like, well, no,
everything's perfect. You make it look so easy. It's all perfectly great.
Yeah, I'll show you my mistakes because that happens.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It all happens.
Absolutely. Yeah. And in sewing too, like when I get a lot of like perfectionist beginners, they'll say like, oh no, I'm off. And I look, it's like 1/16 of an inch. I'm like, the seam allowance is 1/2 inch. Nobody's going to see that. It's not going to affect. And so sometimes when I see them freak out and they're kind of like those anxious type of perfectionists, they want to fix it. I'm like, it's going to set you back so far in the class that you're not going to leave here with a finished project. So I just tell them, like, trust me, you'll see at the end, you'll see that it won't affect it, but they can't yet see the end of the you get it? So they think, no, it will be wrong. And I'm like, just trust me, keep going to the next step, keep going to the next step. And then at the end, I'm like, you see, do you even remember where it was that you were off a little bit? And they're like looking, they're like, no, I can't even. I'm like, so you have to, because otherwise it will stop you. That will hinder you from working on more projects and doing more stuff, because you get hung up on one, then it all comes inside and they say, well, I'm not good at this, I can't do it. And then so as a teacher, I feel like it's our job to
differentiate when it's a minor thing that you can get over and learn from, or when it's like a glaring mistake that you're never going to unsee it.
Exactly.
And that was my case. I was never going to get over that because it was a glaring error. It really was. But but honestly, in this cardigan that we're doing, there's been a couple times where I've like, oh, well, whoopsie.
Yeah, me too. And I just keep going. Part of it was, when you said like you can skip the eyelets on the end. Yeah. So the first one I was like, yeah, I'm going to skip it. And then the next time I came around to do eyelets, like it just threw me off because there wasn't one there and there should have. So then I was like, oh, you know what? We're just going to follow the chart legit and we'll leave it. So I have like a little section where there's none and then it just comes back into it. So I'm like, who cares?
And you know what? One of my patrons, shout out to Lynn from Minnesota, she would say, you'd never see that going by on a trotting horse. I've heard that too. And quilters say that too. They say the same thing. Like if you have two like blocks that don't match up exactly, they're like, you'll never see it, from a trotting horse. I have to tell you a little quilting story. So my daughter was doing quilting for 4-H and she made this fantastic table runner. It was from a kit that we got somewhere. It was an amazing table runner. We have a regular sewing machine and it was having problems and it needs to be serviced. And I don't know enough about it to do it myself. And we're 70 miles from anywhere with a sewing center. So she hand stitched the entire thing. She did the whole thing by hand and it was amazing. Oh, it went to State Fair. It was fantastic.
Oh my God.
And we have this like little stand. It's a little stand that has a big hoop thing. And it was like where you would sit and put it. It's like a giant embroidery hoop, but it's for
a big quilting frame. Yeah.
Yeah. And you just put it, and
she put your 3 layers in there and you get the hand quilting. It's super comfy. I like to hand quilt too. I like, that quilt that's up there.
Yeah.
My it's called a slicer quilt. That is hand quilted. I like that juxtaposition of like super modern. This is very Japanese inspired fabric collection.
Right.
This kind of geometric shape in there, and then the hand quilting. I had that hanging in my studio, in my shop and stuff, and people would come in, they're like, the ladies would be like, you hand quilted. And I'm like, we don't just do everything by machine. If you want to, it's fine. I have a long arm, but I'll hand quilt stuff too.
Yeah.
So it just depends, on the look you're going
for. She hand stitched the whole thing and then hand quilted.
That's amazing.
And people don't often do that now in this day.
Nobody does it. Nobody does it. English paper piecing is kind of done like that. There's certain techniques and shapes of stuff that people will.
Yeah. I think she was 14, maybe 13, 14 when she did that. I think.
She has a lot of patience, huh?
She does.
You have to for that. Forget about it. I have one kid that has a ton of patience and one that has negative amount of patience. So the one loves to knit.
Is that probably their age though?
They're not that far apart, 8 and 10. The little one is just like me. It's just like, off with it. I'm done. You know, the other one is like, sure, I'll sit here. You know, it's like the mediator. He likes everyone to be happy. He's a people pleaser. Like he's just more easygoing, you know, and he loves to knit. My son makes hats. He makes himself knitted hats all the time. He'll dye the yarn and then knit the hat.
That's fantastic.
Black, yellow, and white, like a Pokemon inspired colorway. And then he'll make himself a hat, you know? The other one,
Florida. He could wear it like 1 month out of the year.
Not really, Jenna. We live in North Central Florida, okay? So like December, January, February, sometimes we have to go milk the cows and it's like 26 degrees. You know, so he's like, I can wear my hat to go do farm chores at the crack of dawn, and that's it.
Awesome.
But yeah, so he makes his hats, and my daughter will start a scarf, and she'll be like, I'm over it. Like, and it'll be like, you know, like size 13 needles with super bulky yarn. And I'm like, it's going to go by quick. And she's like, over it.
Does she say it like that?
Oh, she says it worse than that. You don't know her, okay? She has all the sass in the world.
She's all attitude-y already.
She's been since she was like 12 months old, okay? I used to wear my kids in wraps, like on me. Yeah. So my son was 2 years older than her, and then I'd have her in a wrap. And if I'm in the line, say at the supermarket checking out, she'd be turned around, just ice grilling whoever was behind her. And if somebody would say like, oh, you're so cute, she'd say, no, look me, no touch me.
Good girl.
1 year old, she'd say, no, look me, no touch me. And then she'd say that to everybody. Me not want anyone, look me, no touch me. Girl, she was so feisty. I was like,
hey, but that's boundaries. Good for her.
Know. And for a girl, I was like, I want her to be like that. You know, when you're 19, I'm going to be thankful for that.
No, look me, no touch me.
She's always been like that. Yep.
Yeah. Good for her.
Always. So that's she's a piece of work.
So you learned to knit when you were
grown after 30. Yeah. 30.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So you learned, and then when did you get started into like kind of more advanced? When did you move on from like the dishcloth phase?
I decided, I want to say 2 years ago, that I was like, okay, so this is what it was. I went to this thing called Camp Workroom Social. Have you heard of it? It's for sewing, for garment sewing. Okay. So it's a camp in upstate New York. Mm-hmm. And it's for garment sewing. You pick a track of class, and, you know, and you take classes or whatever. Well, these people are really into like slow fashion. I would say like that demographic that goes to that event. They're very into like making their own coats, their own jeans, like very like slow fashion and very high quality and well-made items, right? So of course you can see how that goes hand in hand with knitting their own garments. Yeah. So we get up there, my girlfriends and I, and we went to attend the thing, and everybody is wearing sweaters that they knit themselves, and scarves and all this stuff, because it was like 30 degrees. And I'm thinking, all this is knit? I want to knit like this too, you know? So one of the nights it was raining, and they had like little workshops that you can sign up for. And so one of them was being taught by Allison Dykhuizen. Do you know who she is? She's one of the owners of Knit One in Chicago. It's a yarn shop. Okay. Super cute shop. I went to it last year, and she taught some classes on Blueprint's website, and she's a designer, you know, on Ravelry. She has a bunch of stuff. And so she was teaching like a beginner knitting thing. So my girlfriend and I were like, yeah, let's try knitting again. She says, you know, I used to knit in the 70s, my friend says. So we just sat there and just were chit-chatting. And then we just started making like a big swatch of stockinette. And we really just like, okay, this is the start. She goes, you guys can totally jump into a project, pick something, you know? So we were like surfing through Ravelry, choosing what our next project was going to be. And I remember telling her, my goals with this knitting thing is to knit a pair of socks and to knit myself one sweater, then I'll be done. You know, like I'll be over it. Like once I get those 2 milestones, and I've already knitted socks. I mean, I'm halfway through 3 sweaters now. I haven't finished any of them, but that's why. Yeah, no.
But you will. We're going to see you wearing your Campside Cardi.
Well, I put this thing on. I told my husband, look at this, dude. It fits. But, you know, if you don't make stuff, it's hard to like visualize. It's going to be longer. Yeah. There will be sleeves. Yeah. There will be a band. But I'm excited because I'm seeing it all come together.
I was like, woo.
It's super comfy. This is going to be perfect for me because in this new house, we can't really crank up the AC too high. Like it's cooler here than I'm used to. So I'm always like a little bit bundled. So I was like, oh, I need to knit all the cardigans to lounge around the house or sweatshirts or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm excited to keep working on it.
And you've done socks?
I have. Toe up.
How did that go?
It was easy. Okay. Like it wasn't, you know?
Good.
That wasn't bad. So this is what I did because I know myself. I started off with a shawl. right? Because I see all the podcasters and everybody I follow is all fingering weight yarn.
Yeah.
And I'm a very like bulky, super bulky, quick crochet, and I'm out the door. Okay. So when I see this super thin yarn, I'm like, and they expect me to do what with this? I felt like it was like 2 needles and like floss. Like, you know, when you're not used to it, it seems so thin.
It does.
So I thought,
and if you go from a project where you're knitting like worsted or Aran weight, and then you go to sock yarn, you're like,
it's
oh,
crazy.
wait a minute.
Exactly.
You gotta yeah.
Exactly.
The switching back and forth gives you that sensation as well.
Yep. So I'm like, okay, let's start slow. So I bought a skein of like some speckled yarn at a local shop, and I started with a shawl that used like size 6 needles with the fingering weight yarn. So I thought, well, let me use bigger needles, but use this thin yarn and see how it goes. And I made the shawl, and I was like, it was like a lace shawl. I was like, this was fine. It's not a big deal. And then I started with socks, and I was like, this whips up quick because it's smaller, it's tighter, and it just like, and I'm like, okay. And I know about like the one sock syndrome or whatever, but I didn't have that problem. I just want to learn. I want to try different heel techniques, you know what I mean? A little bit more to find something better. So
there are a bajillion different heel techniques depending on what works best for you, what fits for you, what, you know, where do you normally wear out your socks, you know?
Exactly. Yeah, I just have to play around more with that. But, you know, we don't really need high socks here. So I just need to whip up shorties and call it a day. Okay? You guys make these socks with this. I'm like, oh Lord, if I get to like row 40, I'll be like, I'm done. Let's add a little ribbing here, 5 rows of ribbing, and call it a day. Yeah.
And I'm knitting stuff that goes halfway up my leg to wear with my negative 20 barn boots.
I can't. No.
You would freeze.
I would die. Yeah.
You'd be like, I don't care about that cow anymore.
We went to Colorado a couple of years back to go skiing.
Yeah.
And we went out to dinner. It was like 3 degrees. Okay. As we're driving, we literally see the thing going 2, 1, 0, -1, -2. I'm like, hurry up, get to the place. It was like -15. Yeah. What? Getting toddlers dressed in that temperature. My daughter doesn't like to wear anything. Okay. These are like beach kids. They just want to be like,
they're like naked babies.
And to load her up with all those layers, oh, I mean, it was a fuss and a fight. And I remember thinking, how do people live here? For us, if I need to run out the door and say, well, you know, before we were all on lockdown, and to go run and do something quick, it was literally grab the kids and go, because they're not babies. You know what I mean? It was just like, boom. In these places, you legit have to start plotting to leave your house like 45 minutes before, because it's like, okay, gather up all the stuff, get the kids, where are the socks, grab
mittens, hats, all the things.
I can't do it.
And then
I can't do it.
No, you don't do it. Then the key is, okay, you all stay home. Mom's going to the store by herself in the middle of the damn night because 1, you need some alone time, and 2, it's too cold. Everyone else can stay home and leave me alone. I'll go. That's how that works. Oh, and then sometimes they have drive-up liquor stores here. And
drive up. Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So I'm in my minivan, right? And I would really like to have a wine cooler, but exactly, it's, you know, 10 degrees and it's winter and it's cold. So you just go to the drive-up window and you give them your ID, and you don't have to get the kids out, and they hand you your 6-pack through the window.
Wow.
Yeah.
They have it set up for it though. Yeah.
And
so how far are you from like a local shop, like grocery store?
Oh, a grocery store? 26, 27 miles.
Excuse me?
An actual grocery store is 30 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah.
I live out in the country, girl, and a grocery store to me is like maybe 13 minutes, 12, 13 minutes, and that's far for people.
So what do you think is your most favorite thing you've knit?
Ooh.
That's a hard one, I know.
That is a hard one. Because like we mentioned, you know, I like to try new things, whether it's a new yarn or a different technique or different, like I just like to, it's like a potato chip, you know, it's like, oh, that was fun. On to the next one. Oh, that was great. Next. So I'm trying to think back. Maybe my Gaptastic cowl.
Oh, right.
Have you seen that pattern? It's one on Ravelry. It's all in seed stitch, which some people don't like. But I like those types of projects because they're getting you to practice knitting and purling. That's, you know, it's just going back and forth. And once you get the rhythm down, but I use this really, really amazing wool yarn that I got. And it's like a single ply, and it's puffy. Like it's a bulky, not super bulky, but like a 5.
Yeah.
And it just turned out amazing. So that was a really fun one to make.
Have you done color? Have you done a lot of color work?
I haven't done any. I need to watch your videos, okay? But I see it and I'm just like, I just don't have the brain space for it right now, later, you know?
You know what you might really like, just because you want that instant gratification and you want that quick result, you might really like the mosaic patterns.
Oh, I've seen that. Did you do something on that recently?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I saw it in. And I was wondering, I need to do a little bit more research and see exactly how it's done.
You might enjoy that, just because it's still just holding one color per row, but you have that effect of the stranded
color work. Yeah.
Yeah. You might like that.
But remember, we have different climates. You're the one building up these 2 thick layers of knitting one on the other. I need like open, airy lace for summer. I know. I'm always like, oh, and people wonder why in warm climates, how are we knitting like this time of year or something? I'm like, we're always inside a building, in a car with AC, inside your house, you know, so it's not a big deal for me.
Socks. You can wear socks in the winter. You can knit socks. Socks are a good summer project, just because you don't have the heaviness on your lap.
That's true.
Except we're doing a cardigan.
Yeah, but it's not bad. To be indoors with the AC on, it's not bad at all. And I love the weight, the DK like that. It's still, and like you said, when we were working on the gauge swatch, the fabric is amazing. It's like,
it's drapey.
It's just enough, and it's drapey, you know, like it's not like a super thick. I love it. I'm super happy with the fabric.
Like I see that up next to you and I'm like, oh, that looks so
girl. Look at
that's such a good color.
I love the jewel tones, anything in the plums and eggplanty colors. I love that. And it's a heathered purple too. So
that's lovely.
Yeah, I'm super happy with it. So thank you.
I'm going to be excited to see you like wear
rocking it. Yeah, girl.
I want to see you wearing it. Definitely. Have you knitted very many of the like big open lace wraps? No.
I've only made that one Gaptastic cowl, and then I did a lace shawl.
Right. Okay.
As far as those.
So do you wear the shawl much or not?
When I travel, I'm like, I'm in Colorado. Yay, I get to wear my shawl, you know? I'm in Chicago. It's 26 degrees and drizzling. Yay, I'm wearing my little shawl, but it's not, you know, not here like that.
Right.
But I do want to get into maybe making some more like summer, like hot weather garments, you know, like those little t-shirts that are kind of loose and lacy that you wear with a tank top under. I've been trying to kind of eyeball some patterns on Ravelry that I want to tag. And I bought last year, you know, I told you I went to that Knit One Chicago shop in Chicago that my friend owns. And I bought it's a blend, but it's like mostly silk.
Right.
Super fancy. And I'm thinking of making the Ranunculus, but like the shirt one. Have you seen that one?
I haven't.
It's a Ravelry pattern. It's like is the thing, and it's like it's a sweater version, but there's a top version that's so drapey. I think the sample they show is done in like a silk tweed yarn.
Wow.
It looks amazing. But they had a sample at the shop is how I saw it. And so I had bought the yarn to maybe make one of those. We'll see.
It sounds interesting. I'm going to look it up.
Yeah, check it out.
Cool. So thanks for joining me on the podcast. It's fantastic to meet. Well, I've met you, but it's fantastic to have you on my channel.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, we'll put the links down below to all the things we talked about. Go check out the Crafty Gemini over on her channel.
Thank you.